Hey everyone, hey Wellness Crew, and welcome to today's reading of the Gene Keys Golden Path Love, a guide to your Venus sequence. 7. The Pathway of Intelligence. When we were introduced to the activation sequence, we saw a very simple threefold pattern that is universal in its nature. We are confronted with a challenge, and it is our wholehearted response to this challenge that allows us to experience a breakthrough. As we incorporate the breakthrough into our life, so we strengthen our core stability. These three phases, challenge, breakthrough, and core stability, are a motif that continues throughout the Golden Path. As we approach the sixth pathway, the pathway of intelligence, we arrive at another kind of challenge. This time, the challenge is not about our life's work or our outer life. It is a far deeper challenge because it underpins the challenge of our life's work and evolution. The challenge of the pathway of intelligence concerns the correct balance of the mind and the emotions in your life. A healthy equilibrium between these two planes is a major indicator of true intelligence. We have already seen through the sphere of the IQ how powerful the mind can be at holding back the emotions. The Venus sequence is all about emotion. Its purpose is to free the emotions so that they flow through us effortlessly as nature intended. However, the challenge is always about finding the balance. If your mind dominates over your feelings, then your life force is stymied, whereas if your emotions run amok to the detriment of your mental state, your nervous system will pay a high price, not to mention your relationships. The Venus sequence teaches us that intelligence is a process rather than an achievement or birthright. This process, moreover, is intimately linked to our awakening. In our relationships, the gauge of our awakening is our ability to communicate clearly, openly, and with respect. This pathway of intelligence is therefore all about balanced and open communication, which lies at the heart of our ability to relate with others. It is interesting that we so often view intelligence as an individual phenomenon. Through the lens of the Venus sequence, however, you may come to view intelligence as an interactive force field that lies between two or more living auras. This is the deeper meaning of the pathway of intelligence. Every relationship actually has a natural intelligence of its own. And when we find the keys to unlock this intelligence, then we will have triggered an extraordinary process of collaborative awakening that is only now just emerging in our world. The Eden Loop. We may note that every pathway comprising the Venus sequence has a shadow keynote, with the exception of the final pathway of realization. In this case, it is the pathway of defense. The two spheres at either end of this pathway of intelligence and defense dictate the quality and frequency of our communication. If our low-frequency mental teenage pattern, IQ, is in charge, then this will most likely trigger the other person's emotional defense strategy, EQ. This in turn triggers our own low-frequency IQ pattern to engage. In the Venus sequence, this process of the sequential triggering of each other's childhood patterns is known as the Eden Loop. The Eden Loop is a low-frequency biofeedback loop that often occurs in relationships as two people's shadow sequences collide. A major part of working with the Venus sequence concerns the awareness of such patterns that prevent us from communicating in an open and respectful way. Once awareness enters into the equation, we are more likely to catch our own reactive shadow patterns as they are occurring. In this way, we can prevent ourselves from being a victim of those patterns. This is why it was stated earlier that it only takes one person to begin the transformation of a relationship. The moment one person refuses to engage their side of the Eden Loop, then the pattern itself has nowhere to go. The Eden aspect only emerges as this pathway begins to open up between two people. The shadow is transformed into a loving state, and a much deeper form of communication becomes possible. In order to understand how the pathway of intelligence really works in your own relationships, you need to become more and more aware of how you communicate and of how you react to the way others communicate. How then do we break out of this Eden loop? Is simple awareness of the pattern really enough? Is there anything else we can do to unlock this intriguing force field of intelligence hiding in our relationships? The answer to these questions lies in a very simple technique described below. You can begin applying this technique to all and any of your relationships. The art of joining. The following technique is adapted from the work of Don and Martha Rosenthal, a very wise old couple living in the woods of Vermont. Don and Martha have committed their lives to exploring the ways of transformation through the medium of their relationship. After 50 years together, what began as a technique has now become a custom in their thriving relationship. It remains the simplest and most profound means of ensuring a lasting atmosphere for open-hearted communication. There are always moments in your relationship when either you or your partner triggers a childhood shadow reaction pattern, activating the Eden loop. As you become more attentive and more aware of these moments, you will eventually be able to catch them as they occur. Sometimes you may be able to catch them before they occur. However, Don and Martha discovered that you could preempt and prevent these powerful triggering moments by changing the way you use language. Most emotional triggers occur because one person in the relationship uses a language and tone that activates a core unconscious belief that we are unworthy of being loved. Whether we react with anger, irritation, resentment, silence, guilt, or any other low-frequency response, the source of our reaction in that moment is that we have forgotten to love and honor ourselves. The first step in dismantling this pattern is to be aware of the trigger going off inside yourself. Despite this hurt you feel inside, you need to recognize that the pattern belongs to you. And even though the other person may have been insensitive, there is something important they are also trying to communicate to you. In such moments, one of the hardest things to do is think of the other person's feelings as well as your own. But this is your challenge if you are to break the pattern of the Eden loop. Usually at this point, the urge you feel will be either to let the other know that they have hurt you, or you may turn away from them in some way. The words you choose to use in this moment are vital to breaking the pattern. If you are to be able to discuss your feelings with another person without triggering their pattern, you can learn the art of joining. Joining simply means that before you respond to what they said or did, you find a way to validate them. Validation is a technique commonly used in situations where emotions run high, and it can diffuse a great deal of misunderstanding. To validate someone, you have to see life from their perspective. Below is an example of how to validate someone else's feelings. Scenario 1, reacting. Partner 1, why don't you ever do the dishes? I feel like it's always me that does them. Partner 2, I'm always doing them. I can't believe you say that. I bet if we kept a record, we'd see I have done them more often than you. The argument continues. Scenario 2, joining. Partner 1, why don't you ever do the dishes? I feel like it's always me that does them. Partner 2, you're right. I haven't done them for a while, and it must feel a bit like I'm not helping as much as usual. Here, let me give you a hand. Although the above example may seem rather trite, it does demonstrate a universal truth, that most problems in communication are down to one or both partners not feeling that they are being listened to. In the first scenario, partner 2 simply reacts in an unthinking and defensive way, which then triggers partner 1's reaction pattern, and so the pattern repeats itself. It may well be that partner 1's initial statement is based on their current feeling rather than a long-term view, but it can easily be interpreted as an unjust judgment of partner 2. However, for someone to say something like that, there must be some grain of truth to it, so it is probable that partner 1 has not done the dishes, at least in a short while. In the second scenario, we can see how joining works. Instead of instantly reacting on the assumption that partner 1's statement is an indictment of their whole character, partner 2 begins by empathizing with partner 1, validating their feelings. They also take a step towards partner 1 by offering to help, instead of taking a step away. Not only is a conflict averted, but because partner 1 feels supported and heard, they are now open to further communication. Partner 2 may have felt hurt or unjustly judged by the way partner 1 expressed their initial cry for help. So if they need to, they can share that, for example. Partner 2: when you said you felt like you were always doing the dishes, it felt a bit unfair to me, as I often do them. Partner 1: yes, it must have seemed unfair, because you do them quite a lot. I was just feeling a bit overwhelmed. I'm sorry about how it came out. Again, you can see here how partner 1 has also validated partner 2's feeling of injustice. This simple linking into the other person's inner state using language is how joining works. It ensures that a healthy, open-hearted dialogue can continue. Initially, when using a technique like this, it may feel a bit forced as you learn how to find the right words. But the more you practice the simple technique, the more subtle and natural it becomes. The power of the technique can be immediately seen when used in any situation where someone has been triggered into a deep emotional pattern. The pathway of intelligence, a cascade of consciousness. As the Venus string continues to open us up to higher possibilities and frequencies, it can unlock an enormous creative intelligence within our relationship. This expanding energy field can be experienced like an emotional cascade. Its nature is to take us on a journey, and like a river, that journey sometimes goes through intense periods of transformation, which are usually followed by periods of calm. The Venus stream will take us on an amazing ride as we allow it to change the way we see ourselves and the way we relate with others. Over time, you will learn to respond to emotionally charged situations while retaining your core stability and self-love. Every relationship offers us such a journey into higher consciousness, but our Dharma will continue to test us until we have burnt up all the karma. It may take us the best part of a lifetime to allow ourselves to be transformed in this way. As in anything, we will go through periods of difficulty and periods of ease. Above all, this pathway of intelligence teaches us to let go of being defensive. This is why it offers us such a challenge, but it is the greatest challenge there is, and it comes with the greatest reward. As we shall see, our reward is the breakthrough of unconditional love as we pass through the subsequent spheres of our EQ and our SQ. Thank you so much for joining me for today's reading of the Gene Keys Golden Path Love, a guide to your Venus sequence. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and or join as it is popping off on the membership tiers, and I'll see you on the next video or live stream. Be well, stay wild as well.